Hello, you're watching Hornbill TV's On Live Bulletin. In the ensuing Lok Sabha elections, the first phase of voting was completed on 19th April 2024. And today, the second phase began at 7 a.m. in the morning. The phase 2 polls will be held in 88 Lok Sabha or parliamentary constituencies in a total of 13 states. The states that are going to the poll in phase 2 of the Lok Sabha elections are Assam with 5 constituencies, Bihar with 5, Chhattisgarh with 3 constituencies, Karnataka with 14 constituencies, Kerala with 20, Madhya Pradesh with 6, Maharashtra 8, Manipur 1, Rajasthan 13, Tripura 1, Uttar Pradesh 8, West Bengal 3 and Jammu and Kashmir 1. Earlier, 89 constituencies were expected to vote in this phase, but polling in Madhya Pradesh's Betul was rescheduled after the death of a candidate from the Bahujan Samaj Party. Betul will now vote in the third phase on May 7th. And in today's On Live Bulletin, we have with us our senior news analyst, Almuli, and we'll be speaking more about the general elections or the Lok Sabha elections 2024 in general, and whether the mood of the voters in India have changed, or is it the same old way as to how elections are held in India. So, thank you, sir, for joining me on this special newsroom. Well, coming straight into the matter, today is the second phase of polling, that is the April 26th, and elections in India, be it assembly elections or general elections, have always been a spectacle to watch. Well, in 2014, we had seen a Modi wave. In 2019, we saw how the BJP were able to retain their seat and have a full majority in the House, and now it's 2024. So, sir, looking at the elections that happened before and today, do you feel that there is a change in the way the voters are about to vote, and do you feel that there is a change in the way people are thinking about governments, and do you feel that how in 2014 and 19 the BJP rode on the Modi wave, do you think that in 2024 too that the Modi wave is very much existent and that will be a major factor in this elections?
Definitely, I think we are seeing a very different kind of general elections in the country this time, Akivi. I think there are two things that we have to keep in mind in the first place. First, this is a parliamentary seat elections, and when we actually compare it to the kind of elections that we have in the states, I think the dynamics are very, very strong, but also distinctly different from the way it's conducted for, let's say, the Lok Sabha or the Nagaland Legislative Assembly. It's totally different. But one thing I can definitely say is that if we, especially from those of us from the generation when Modi first came to power, way back, if you look at 2018, when the Congress was there, the BJP, they came in for the second term, and then in 2014, I think that was probably the first time we saw something I believe might be considered something similar to Beatlemania way back in the 1960s. So during that time, the whole idea of the what we now call as Modi wave was not something that was seen in the to the prism of political credibility. Here now, if you look at the 2024 elections, you are not looking at politics through the eyes of one person. Way back in 2014, way back in 2018 too, like when we talk of Modi wave, BJP wave, we were talking about a change in the country from the way we would see a revolution, Akivi.
Yes.
It was not like a wave, it was more like a revolution, like the Iranian cultural revolution. That something big was going to happen. But for 2024, I don't see, especially in terms of the conversations that is going on in the media space, Akivi, I don't think there's a Modi wave right now. Of course, I think Modi still enjoys a lot of support from the country's BJP and the nationalist aligned parties, but it's not similar to the ones that we saw in his previous 2 terms. So while we can see some changes, like I said, the dynamics concerning state assembly elections and the parliamentary seat elections are totally different. So while we can certainly say that there is no Modi wave the way we saw before, we can also definitely say that there is a change in the behavior of the electorate, especially when it comes to party allegiances and the way the people move towards certain policies of a certain party. We are not seeing that, definitely.
All right, sir. Now coming back to this second phase, today 88 constituencies went into polls from 13 states. If you look back at April 19th, there were 21 states and union territories that went to polls with 102. So a total of 190 seats by now, it's forced. Voting would have been completed in many constituencies. But now 190 seats are over, and now we've got about 353 seats left that will be going to polls in the 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th phases. So do you believe that with the Election Commission organizing this Lok Sabha election in phases, it gives political parties a time, or rather that important time to, look at what the voters turnout was, look at how the party went wrong or how the party went right, and also in this particular equation. So do you think with the electoral bonds now being declared unconstitutional, do you believe that the party with the most amount of money will have advantage over the rest of the phases now? Because on May 7th, the 3rd phase will begin. Then we've got the 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th phase in 7 phases. So do you believe that money is now going to play a crucial role among political parties as they continue the political campaign?
Oh, that's an interesting question, but I don't think right now we have the sufficient premise for us to be actually speculating on the outcome of the results, outcome of the political party's fate in this regard. But it is true that, just like you said, the phases of elections that we are having definitely gives the political parties a chance to recoup. They can go back to their camps and say, hey, I think we made a mistake here, so I think this time we're going to do something a little bit different from the way we used to do before. So like you said, I agree with you. It definitely gives the political parties a chance to look back at their performance, or at least have a measure of what the outcome would be in the coming phases. So yes, it's like a buffer zone for them. But again, like you mentioned, money, power, elections in most Asian countries, especially India, has always been characterized by the use of money. And definitely we have been hearing a lot of, just recently the BJP president JB Nadda was accused of carrying several bags of money to be distributed to the voters. We don't know. There might just be allegations from rival political parties trying to just throw mud at someone else. But it is also true that money has also always been integral to the way our political system works, integral to the way they exacted results out of our electoral processes. So of course, certainly I think the way elections have been conducted across the country, even in the past, definitely I can say that money will be involved. But then again, like I mentioned earlier, the dynamics of parliamentary constituency elections and state elections are totally different. Somehow you can distribute money, let's say, but because the vote alignment and the nature of the position itself, member of Rajya Sabha, member of the Lok Sabha, is different from the way people elect positions, elect people to positions in the state assemblies. They are totally different. So the way money would work in a state electoral system would be totally different, and even ineffective in the way people would elect people to the parliament, the MPs, to the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha. So that dynamics are totally different. It might work in the state electoral processes, but not certainly in the electoral constituencies regarding the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. So there might be a little bit of a change, but I think if there is any change in the way the political parties function in this, what you call the buffer zone, that elections are being held in phases, if there are any change, then it will only be in their planning frameworks, in their strategies, in the way they want to take the election forward in their favor or against their rival political parties' position. So it will only be in the way they take it forward, not necessarily in how much votes they can get, but in how much they can compromise the votes of their rival political parties.
All right, so now coming to the elections and the appeals for the appeal by the Election Commission of India to every citizen who is applicable to exercise their franchisee to go vote. I mean, during election times, this is quite a common phenomenon where you have celebrities making messages, asking each voters to go vote and cast their votes and exercise their franchisee. Election Commission has even coined a mantra saying one vote is a powerful, your vote is a powerful vote. We even had Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, also make a video where he has appealed to the people to use this franchisee to go out in numbers and vote. But unfortunately or fortunately, on the 19th of April and today, the 26th, a lot of areas have seen an increase in voter turnout, but a lot of areas too have seen quite a high number, or rather decrease in the voter turnout. So in this regard, do you believe that the voter turnout that has decreased will affect the majority party's vote share, or do you think it will create a level playing field?
Interesting, Akivi. First thing, we have about 88, right? 88 yes, constituencies in this current phase of the elections, Akivi?
Yes.
Yeah, 88 across 13 states and union territories. So now, in the first phase, I think it was about 75 to 78%, if I'm not mistaken, overall across the country, right?
Yes.
Now, in the second phase, it's very surprising till about 1 to 2 p.m. the voter turnout was around 35, which is one of the lowest. And of course, states like Kerala and Maharashtra, they have been seeing, I think Tripura was the highest among the states in the second phase that recorded the highest voter turnout at about 56%. Kerala was about 15. So I was just surprised, like, why is this change? If you follow the natural progression of the electoral exercise that we're having right now, you would expect the second and the third at least, and towards the midpoint you would at least have a peak, let's say about 80 to 90 at least, or at least 80%. But what we're seeing here is a decline, Akivi. We don't know. In the 6th and the 7th phases, I think the entire country might come out in those places where elections have not yet been held. But as you pointed out, we are seeing a decrease. Now, I would like to connect this opinion to the first question that you asked me about the Modi wave, Akivi. So now, that is the point that I'm trying to make. If in 2014 and 2018 we saw a Modi wave, then naturally we would have assumed that in these 5 years we would still be having a Modi wave. So if there is a decrease in the voters turnout in the percentage, like I said, Tripura, a BJP state, and expected to have one of the highest voter turnouts among the BJP aligned states, recorded only about 56, and that's the highest among the 13 states that are going to vote in the second phase, Akivi. So instead of the numbers increasing, we are seeing a decrease. So I think that will explain why I am saying there is no Modi wave. So if there is no Modi wave, then I think there could be two reasons for this. First is when you are electing a representative to the parliament, you are basically not electing someone who would take care of your core issues. For example, you send someone to the parliament to represent a voice of the state, not a welfare voice of the people. For that, you have the chief minister, you have the MLAs and the ministers at the state level in the legislative assemblies. So when you send someone to the parliament, you are basically sending someone who will not address your welfare per se. You are only trying to represent the welfare voice of the state in general. So that is the reason, that might be one of the reasons why I believe that people are not really interested in these elections, maybe, and that perhaps could be another reason why there is a decrease. And second is, like I pointed out, no Modi wave. I think people are a little tired. You know, it's not like Modi is a bad prime minister or the BJP is a bad government or I.N.D.I.A, anyone, NPF. It is just that I think we have all heard about how even in politics there is one truth that we use even socially, and that is familiarity always breeds contempt. So, and that's the reason why over the past about 56 years in India, we have never had a government that ruled constantly for 3-4 terms, or at least during the past 30 years. It has always been either the Congress or some other party, and now we have 2 terms of the BJP, and perhaps I think this trend might indicate some truth to why people somehow get a bit bored of the same government all the time. So yeah, that's my answer, Akivai.
All right, so now coming back to the election campaigns, well, a lot of political observers have observed a kind of change in the way the Prime Minister or rather the political parties are now campaigning. Well, due to the low voter turnout during the first phase too, many opposition parties have alleged that the BJP is now scared, and that is why they are resorting. Now they are resorting to communal speeches. With regard to communal speeches, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's campaign in Rajasthan created quite a political controversy with the way he had referred to a certain section of the community by saying that the Congress in its manifesto has decided to redistribute the wealth of the people and then hand it over to the minority, or those people that goospate or infiltrators or people who have more children. Whereas Rahul Gandhi, on the other hand, has also been sent notice for trying to rake up the poverty issue that is rising in India. The Election Commission has sent out show cause notices to both these parties after complaints were filed that these candidates have violated the model code of conduct. Now, according to the Election Commission of India, a show cause notice was issued to the president of those political parties that these leaders represent. So, sir, do you believe that the Election Commission, being a constitutional and independent body, rather than having a reply from the candidate that gave the speech and asking for the candidate to give a reply as to why he gave the speech, asking the president of the political party that these leaders represent, do you believe that this needs to change, and do you believe that this is maintaining the free and fair election process that the Election Commission is thriving for?
Yeah, I was surprised when I read about how the Election Commission of India sent a notice to Prime Minister Modi in regard to his speech about Muslims. Of course, he didn't say Muslims, if my source is correct. He said infiltrators, and in India, when we talk of people who have too many children, we know who we are talking about. So he didn't say Muslims in that sense, but he was nonetheless given a show cause notice. And then second came Rahul Gandhi. Of course, he is always getting show cause notices from the Election Commission all the time for this or that reason. But the fact that this time the Election Commission seemed to be sending all these notices to the chiefs of the parties and not the candidates, and generally it's always the candidates that gets penalized, Akive.
Yes.
But this time it's like going to the political command of the parties themselves. I think it is more like the Premier Leagues in football, Akive. If the fans, they misbehave, it is the club that gets the notice. Yes. So somehow there is a sense of hierarchy in the way even the penalties are to be doled out. So I think it's basically telling the political parties to, hey, take care of your members, your leaders and your candidates and your star campaigners, so that make sure that they don't make a mistake this time, because you are in charge, you are the party, you are the president, you have to make sure that they are in line. But I don't know how they are going to do that for someone in the stature of Narendra Modi, who is a demigod in the BJP. But at least I think the way the Election Commission has been working is trying to enforce some kind of a discipline through the party's leadership and necessarily through the candidates. Because if you send it to the candidate, it is not the party that is made culpable or accountable. It is taking action only against the individual, which means it also gives freedom to the party to be able to be more flexible in the way it conducts itself. So it will not have to be responsible for all the candidates, but this time they're sending it to the presidents and the chiefs and the commands of the party, so that they will ensure some kind of a discipline within their ranks. So I believe that's what the Election Commission is doing, Akivi.
All right. Sir, another thing, ever since 2014, I mean, we have seen a a rise in the use of slogans. I mean, I think the Bharatiya Janata Party should will get the credit in creating these catchy slogans.
Everywhere.
There were slogans before that, "Ab ki baar Modi Sarkar," but this year, before the election started, the BJP, Bharatiya Janata Party, had already selected a new slogan, and this time "Ab ki baar 400 par," which means this time the Bharatiya Janata Party and its allies want to win at least 400 plus seats, which the Congress is saying it is absurd. And the fact that if BJP had a majority of, if they wanted 400, then why are they electing? In this sense, now with regard to Nagaland too, how important do you think a strong opposition is, and what could some of the dangers of a full majority have on the common citizens of a country?
I know, and I think most people, they know that the role of an opposition in any political system is integral to the proper and smooth and strong functioning of the democratic process, the democratic political institution, and the democratic social structure. Because without the presence of opposition, I mean, it goes without saying, Akivi, if there is no opposition, you can do whatever you like. And that is what we are seeing everywhere. The United States, Joe Biden is being accused of dictatorship because he has no opposition. The Senate is weak. The Congress, it is full. Everywhere. Indonesia, you have Iran, you have, even in India, people are accusing Narendra Modi of being a dictator now because the opposition is weak. And in Nagaland, I don't think I want to go there. We don't have an opposition government. That is why all the issues that are to be handled, for example, there's a ban going on. Yes. The business community in Dimapur across Nagaland, they are protesting against extortion activities. Yes. And the reason why community organizations, student organizations, the ho-hos and the community leaderships are taking action is because there is no one at the legislative to be able to raise the concerns of the people. Yes. We don't have opposition. And that is why the governance system is based solely on the decision of a single person, and because there is no opposition, where there is check and balances to be able to filter out all the lacunae, all the problems that is within the system or among the people, because there is no check and balances, we are having this kind of issues today. And if there is no strong opposition, it means we don't have a strong government, IKV. Studies have shown that, and our historical behavior and our history tells us that without opposition, there is no strong government. And if there is strong opposition, there is always strong government, because the check and balances are there. If someone is doing something wrong, someone is going to point it out and say, hey, you're doing that wrong. We have to do this way. So there is always a filtration process along the way. So I cannot emphasize this enough. Today we are saying opposition-less Nagaland government, but the people don't recognize the damage it is doing to them. Right. So opposition is integral. So everywhere, just look at the strong governments across the world, and I'm not talking about places like China, North Korea. I'm talking about the democratic political institutions across the world, where governments that are considered the best performing in the world are also governments where the opposition are strongest in the world. It's just like, you know, we say, oh, Baba strong thagile, to ama strong thagile, bacha can be strong way.
Yes.
As simple as that.
All right, so thank you so much for joining me on this special newsroom to speak about the general elections in general, and also giving us your point of view as to how important an opposition needs to be in a democracy. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Akivi.
Well, that was our senior news analyst, Al Nguli, and he just shared with us his opinion on the general elections, and he has mentioned in quite a large voice that there seems to be no Modi wave, and that could relate to the lower voter turnout this time around in the Lok Sabha 2024 elections. Today is the second phase. 88 constituencies in 13 states have gone to polls. It's already 4:30 now, so the voting would have ended in most areas. And now the wait is for June 4th as to see the results of what what the voters voted, who the voters voted for, and why they voted for their particular representative. That was all for this hour's bulletin. For more news and updates, stay tuned to Hornbill TV. Goodbye.